Now, categories of cars don't come much more polarizing than that of performance luxury SUVs. Plenty of you out there despise the entire concept of something like this BMW X5M, but at the same time, they still sell like hotcakes. Obviously, there's no denying the physics-bending abilities of these things or the bougie aura that they come with when they're brand new, but according to the internet, apparently when used, these things can turn bad. Which then begs the question, should you seriously consider buying a used BMW X5M, or are its best days very far behind it? Let's find out. Now, we're sure you already know this, but the X5M is not only the very top of the range X5, but it's also the most performance-focused variant of BMW's original SUV. Also, in this video, we're going to be focusing on the 2015 to 2018 F85 X5M, which, look, we know it looks quite similar to like the normal run-of-the-mill X5, but under all this, things are quite different. Engine-wise, this thing gets an M-tuned and enhanced 4.4-litre twin-turbo V8, which at the time made it the most powerful engine ever developed for an all-wheel drive BMW. But going fast in a straight line gets pretty boring pretty quickly, so BMW's M division also sorted the suspension and brakes. These things are huge. The corners are beaten into submission thanks to an M-tuned X-Drive all-wheel drive system, super sticky tyres, performance-tuned suspension, and BMW's dynamic performance control systems. But here's a fun fact, if you just must own a European car, and surely the X5M represents the absolute pinnacle when it comes to German manufacturing, these aren't made in Germany. They're not even made in Europe. These are made in a little place called Greer, which is in South Carolina, and that's in America. Interesting. Now look, obviously there's so much more to this car than what we could possibly cover in this video. If we did that, it would take forever. So instead, we have gathered all of the specific details and we've put it in our incredibly handy and free ReDriven cheat sheets at ReDriven.com. It's basically like the ultimate used X5M buyer's guide. Now, we don't often sort of focus on the looks or give our opinion of the looks of the cars on our videos, but in this case, I've got to say something. Hey, BMW, more of this, please. Like, this thing just looks so, like, aggressive and muscular, and it's just so perfectly proportioned, unlike most of your current cars. Talk about a brand that's been hit with the ugly stick. Like, have a look at this, and now have a look at this. What the hell is going on, BMW? Although, even though this looks the business, it unfortunately does have a very interesting looking sibling, the X6M. Oh, I'm so sorry, but that thing just looks stupid. It's almost like BMW as a parent holding two children and then it slipped and dropped one on the ground. That's the X6M. Surely it was a mistake. Also, it doesn't drive like a mistake. The major problem I have with like performance SUVs like this is that I want to hate them, but the minute you spend more than a couple of minutes behind the wheel, yeah, I just go and fall in love with the bloody things. Okay, first up, all the stuff that you already know. Yes, it is blisteringly fast. Yes, the brakes are so good, it stops like you've hit a tree. Yes, it makes you question everything you thought you knew about physics by the way it handles corners. And yes, it sounds amazing doing all of those things. An X5M makes you feel almost invincible all of the time. See, thanks to how incredibly well tuned the steering and the suspension and the chassis is, and the fact that it weighs so much, it constantly feels bolted to the ground. So it just, like, no matter what the speed, it just gives you this immense feeling of confidence. And then because of the sheer thrust this thing has, like if you spot a gap, it's yours. If you need to bolt in front of a whole bunch of traffic, easy. It's funny, you know, after driving this thing for a little bit, I now understand why so many people that drive these things drive like complete assholes, because it does really give you this sense that you're just better than everyone else out there. Like, you're bigger, you're faster, you're more aggressive, yet at the same time you're wrapped in this sort of understated cool package, and it just seems to turn off the world around you. But any negatives? Well, look, it hides its speed, meaning that, you know, you think you're doing 80 kilometers an hour and you look at the speedo and you're deep in the 3-digit territory, so your license is certainly going to take a hit unless you've got immense levels of, you know, self-discipline. Also, another small negative, there are a lot of squeaks and rattles in here. We're finding this with a lot of aging European cars. This is a premium European car, but yeah, there's still a cacophony of sounds going on. And look, I know this has been said 1,000 times before, but SUVs should not be this good to drive, no matter what mode or what setting you're in. It's so enjoyable. It's so confident on the road. It's so capable. It's honestly still, after all these years and this many kilometers, it is still so good. Damn it. Now, interior-wise, I personally love this generation of BMW interiors, and you know why? Buttons. It's so nice to have tactile buttons to push. In a world of like touchscreens and haptic feedback, look, yes, this can look a bit cluttered, but it's just better. It's okay if you disagree with me, because it's totally okay to be wrong, but I love the buttons. Now, American-made cars have a pretty horrible reputation for quality here in Australia, but in here, it feels great. Like the materials used, like this legit kind of carbon fiber, which I just realized is a bit squeaky actually. It still looks good. The leather feels quite nice, although in saying that, in certain areas, actually, I should say, this thing gets a hell of a workout. It is this owner's everyday driver. There's grandparents, there's grandkids, there's dogs. It gets a solid workout. And the leather's okay. It almost feels like seeing someone a little bit more mature in age that has seen a bit too much sunlight at the beach. It kind of has that feel to it. It's okay, but it's interesting. Also, in terms of wear and tear, like the plastics or the carbon fiber up here and all this kind of metal trim, it's really heavily scratched in this. Again, with the piano black plastic finishes in cars, like down here, it's quite heavily scratched up. Yeah, it's okay. But like, again, this thing gets a workout. But as far as ergonomics go, oh my God, this driving position is about as close to perfect as it gets. Obviously, there's so much adjustability to this, but considering this is an SUV, this feels spot on, absolutely perfect driving position. Now, practicality wise up front, you've got this cool little slidey trapdoor that holds some storage there, a charger there, and a couple of cup holders. You've got a spot perfectly sized for the car key just there, as long as you don't have many other keys attached to it. Excellent sized door bins. The large bottle door bin is in a really good angle, so it's easy to get stuff in and out. There's a spot here for bits of dried human flesh and skin. Excellent size glove box there, spot for your sunglasses just here, another little hidden storage cubby hole here, and a bisexual center console because it opens both ways. Love that. Now in the back seat, I'm exactly 5 centimeters taller than another American powerhouse with German ancestry, Hollywood legend Bruce Willis. This is in my driving position, and it's fantastic. Heaps of knee room, heaps of foot room, seats are super, super comfortable. It's a bloody lovely place to be back here. Like, even in terms of the small things, like there's hardly any transmission tunnel, so there's a good amount of space for your feet, even if you're in the middle row. And again, just the quality of everything feels so nice. It's again, lovely place to be. Now, as far as wear and tear goes, as I said, this car gets a hell of a workout. There's normally grandkids or grandparents or dogs back here all the time, but it's actually wearing not too badly. There's a few scratches and marks and stuff on the leather. Look, obviously this is going to vary from example to example. They're all going to be different as far as wear and tear, but for one that gets a solid working over, it's pretty good. As far as practicality in the second row, you've got some airline style map pockets, got an armrest with a transformer style set of cup holders here. Also, this whole section can just fold forward if you want to put a snowboard or skis or, you know, anything through the middle. Good size door bins that you don't need to dislocate your shoulder to get them when when your body's inside. And I think that's about it for practicality. Oh, no, there's a storage spot, huge storage spot down here under your own air conditioning controls. Excellent. And practicality in the boot. Really good. You've got adjustable tie down points. These seats fold flat, good amount of space. Love this little thing. Excellent. Right, tech and features. Guys, we're talking the very top of the range X5 here, and even though this is a generation old, it is still loaded with stuff. Outside, obviously, you have the M-specific body kit, 21-inch wheels, those huge brakes, the lowered ride height, and cameras and sensors everywhere. But inside, like, where do we even begin? Okay, infotainment-wise, look, the standard 16-speaker stereo in this sounds incredible, but if you can find one with the optional Bose system fitted, it sounds like you're in a recording studio. It has Bluetooth connectivity depending on the year and model and options fitted. It might have Apple CarPlay, but probably not Android Auto. There are multiple charging ports and it's all displayed via a 10.2-inch touchscreen operating BMW iDrive, which does make sense and is intuitive to use, but these days it is starting to feel its age a little bit. Elsewhere, the powered leather seats are heated up front, the climate control is multi-zoned, there's a head-up display, a powered sunroof, and an almost endless array of driving modes and potential configurations. Honestly guys, it would take us days to go through every specific detail, hence why we've put them all on our very handy ReDriven cheat sheets at ReDriven.com. Now, the problem with the 2.2-ton fire-breathing SUV is that At some point, all of that insane acceleration, it needs to stop. Unfortunately, quite often it is stopped by the scenery, and hence why it's so important to know about the safety features. The good news is the safety authorities here in Australia, ANCAP, when they tested the standard X5 that this is based on, awarded it a perfect 5-star result. But to take you through all of the safety features, we're going to cut to another voiceover, but this time it just potentially might be Academy Award host and comedian Chris Rock talk you through the features.
Man, this fast as shit SUV will keep you safe with its multiple airbags, ABS, brake assist, corner and brake control, EBD, ESC. You got traction control, lane departure warnings, and forward collision warnings.
Again, for the full breakdown of all the features, the tech, all the safety gear, just jump on ReDriven.com and check out that cheat sheet. Okay, so what goes wrong with these things? Let's start with the exterior. First of all, there are loads of reports that there's plenty of rattles coming from the rear tailgate. Secondly, plenty of owners have complained that there's excessive amounts of road noise coming in through the driver's side door. The problem seems to be that the sound insulation in there hasn't been fitted correctly from the factory. That factory isn't in Germany. There are plenty of reports that the drainage holes for the sunroof can clog really easily and kind of leak into the car. When you're getting that checked out, also have the drainage hole at the bottom of the windscreen checked as well. There are quite a few reports that the reversing camera can also have some issues, either just glitching out or not displaying on the screen at all. The hex bolts under here holding on the underbody shield can come loose. And on top of all of that, there are plenty of, let's say, sporadic reports of electronic problems, like the lights kind of playing up, the door lock actuators failing, even the window motors failing. So few issues there. Hence why it's so critical to check out our ultimate used car buyer's guide. The link is just up here. Honestly, guys, watch that before you not only buy an X5M, but really any used car, because it could save you a fortune. Okay, inside, there are heaps of reports that the steering, basically the column area, can make some pretty horrendous creaking and grinding noises. Next up, apparently the leather on the bolster on the entry point of the driver's seat can wear and crack really easily. In saying that, but we question maybe the technique of those getting in and out of the car, but this one seems fine. Also, like the exterior, there are quite a few reports of just random sporadic electronic issues going on. Even with this car, there was an occurrence where the car key was in the car was running, the doors were shut, but then it locked everyone out. They had to go and get the spare key while the car was running to get back in the car. A lot of reports say that it's due to high pressure, washing, like the water can get down in the doors and whatnot, but still that shouldn't happen at all. We do need to say, but plenty of owners of these have never had an issue with them. They are quite sporadic problems for, some owners. Actually, speaking of the owners, we have to give a massive thank you to all of the owners and owners groups of X5Ms that we spoke to when researching this video. Honestly, guys, without you, we couldn't make these videos. You guys are legends. Now, guys, we've realized that out of everybody that watches our videos, it's only about 20% of you that actually subscribe to the channel. So if you could, can you hit that subscribe button for us if you haven't done so already? Honestly, it helps us out so much. Now, this next bit's bound to be interesting. Mechanically, what goes wrong with these? I can't tell you. I'm not a mechanic. Jim is.
The S63 Turbo, the twin turbo V8 petrol, they're an evolution of the N63. Now, some say the N63 is arguably amongst the least reliable of all BMW engines. Is the S63 any better? And have BMW fixed all of those problems? Yeah, sort of. They do have much of the same types of problems the earlier versions had, albeit much less common, but they still do have plenty of problems. By far the worst of them is the big end bearing failure. Look, this can happen at any time without any notice, and if you hear it knocking, well, it's too late and you're up for tens of thousands of dollars to repair it. The entire valve train is very complex and timing chain problems are not unheard of. They also are prone to VANOS complications, that's the variable valve timing systems. The VANOS solenoids fail pretty often and thankfully they're much cheaper to repair. They're also prone to oil consumption. Now BMW say this is normal, but we've seen them use up to 4 litres in a 10,000 kilometre service interval. Now that's pretty scary in an engine that's prone to big end bearing failure due to oil starvation. And speaking of oil starvation, that's what kills turbos, and there's plenty of that too. The cooling system is prone to leaks, and there's got to be, 30 different cooling system hoses on these things. And because the engines are prone to leak a bit of oil, when that oil leaks on the rubber hoses, they become very soft and they quite often burst and leak, which can lead to catastrophic engine overheating incidents. So be prepared to replace hoses and things like that fairly regularly too. Look, I could go on and on about the potential problems here, but the good news is if you service it religiously, and I'm talking every 5,000 Ks, you're far less likely to have serious problems with it. And there are people out there that have had them for a very long time and have had literally no problems at all. But the reality is, in these things, anything over 150,000 kilometres and they're a ticking bomb.
Now, when brand new, this generation of X5M was asking around about $190,000 before on-road costs. But at the lower end of the spectrum at the moment, you can get early examples of these for around about $70,000. Guys, that's a potentially $120,000 drop in value in just 7 years. Ouch. However, in saying that, at the other end of the spectrum, more recent and therefore more expensive X5Ms are asking around about $130,000. So that's just a mere $60,000 drop in value. No, actually, no, that still hurts. Ow. BMW claims a fuel consumption figure of 11.1 litres per 100 kilometres, which you might achieve if you've got like special forces levels of self-discipline. But in the real world, for normal humans like the rest of us, you're never going to see that. For example, this particular X5M is driven very conservatively and it's still seeing 15.5. Also, it's important to know that these things will only ever perform at their best on premium rubber. And because it weighs like 2.2 tonnes, it will eat through that rubber quite quickly. And the same can be said for the brakes. Basically, like, yes, it's fast, but it has a hell of an appetite for the consumables, and the consumables, understandably, are expensive. Okay, look, for most of us, sorry, but it's a no, and we'll explain why in a second. But if you are in the incredibly fortunate position that you can ignore the running and maintenance costs, you can somehow justify the depreciation, and you can afford the very best legal support when it comes time to fight for your license in court. Okay, yeah, look, sure, buy one, because the X5M, when ignoring some of the unfortunate realities, is still a phenomenal thing. Even ignoring the cost of premium tyres and brakes and the fuel it will swallow, because trust us, you will be flexing that right foot more often than not. For the X5M to achieve its immense set of skills, it requires its highly strong mechanical and electrical package to be hugely complex. And when this complexity is mixed with the heat, the vibration and the harsh Australian climate, things will eventually begin to fail, which then requires repairs, which, being a premium BMW, can cost a substantial amount of money. Basically, look, what I'm trying to say is that for those of us that are in a more, let's say, conservative financial position, no, you should not buy an X5M. So guys, do you agree? Do you disagree? Would you ever buy one of these things, or would you buy one of the competition? Let us know in the comments. See you next time. I nearly made myself vomit. That was disgusting. Has not been fitted correctly from the factory. That factory is not sorry. Here we go, this is one.